Remember, do not underestimate the power of PlayStation.
This is MykonosFan, and welcome back to Learning to Love PlayStation. Today we look at the very first in Insomniac Games' beloved PlayStation 2 series. Ratchet & Clank was released in North America on November 4th, 2002. Initially conceived as a game called Girl with a Stick, which was about a girl with a stick in a fantasy setting, the project was having trouble finding its way. I recall Ted Price, Insomniac Games' president, mentioning in an interview once that it felt like no one really had their heart in the project. After a little time passed, the suggestion to make a game about a space-traveling alien with a variety of weapons stuck, and work began on Ratchet & Clank. With the remake of the first game coming out in April, I decided I wanted to play through at least the first 3 games before then, since I really wanted to play the new one. I should note that I'll be playing all 3 games in the first trilogy via the collection on PS3, since I already own it and it's easier to record from that system. The only experience I had with this series before now was when All For One was a free PS Plus title a few years back. I played it for an hour, then just kinda stopped. I did no research and assumed it was the 4th game, considering the explicit 4 in the title, and didn't really get why people liked the series. Now I know the error in that logic. If you've seen my horrible, awful Spyro videos from months back, you know I love Spyro. So I was really anxious to get into this series and see what it was all about. The game's plot centers on fighting Chairman Drek, a heartless businessman looking to create a new planet for his people, the Blarg. However, what he is ultimately after is cold hard cash, and his means of making a new home for his kind just happens to revolve around destroying established planets.
And if you don't like it, you can take your whiny, sniveling, snot-nosed populations, form a line behind me, and kiss my... We're still on? Well, turn it off, you idiot!
Clank, an inferior robot accidentally made at an assembly line, catches a broadcast of Drek's plans and sets out to warn others. However, his ship just happens to crash land on Ratchet's planet. As luck might have it, Ratchet wants to explore the stars, idolizing his hero, Captain Quark. However, his ship requires robotic ignition. How convenient that Clank just crash landed near him, huh? The unlikely pair meet and agree to help each other out. Clank starts Ratchet's ship, and in turn, Ratchet helps Clank to warn about Chairman Drek, pretty much deciding to go after Quark. From there, the plot becomes a reason to romp around all sorts of interesting locales. Once found, Quark winds up, air quote, testing our heroes, aka pitting them against a demonic monster. Oh, yeah. Quark is working for Drek. Never meet your heroes, kids. As you might guess, eventually you get revenge against Quark and defeat Drek. There is also a subplot where Ratchet becomes upset with Clank, with the two taking any chance they can to get a wisecrack in at each other. This equates to about a few hours of Ratchet being an unlikable ass. But when Drek's big planet-destroying laser aims at Ratchet's home planet, he has a change of heart and the two are friends again. The plot is certainly more involved than the Spyro trilogy, and is better, but it's all mainly just an excuse to explore the galaxy. I had heard a lot about the humor in this series, and while the multitude of characters are very charming, I'm assuming that it only gets better from here. So what I'm saying is the plumber was my favorite character.
Alright, wise guy.
Wow, plot and a platformer. Onto the gameplay. Ratchet & Clank is a platformer with a heavy emphasis on combat. One of the design philosophies was to break the boundaries of what a platformer was, and I would say it achieved that task. Sure, you'll jump, glide, swing, and swim, but the weaponry really is the main focus. You utilize a variety of weapons from bombs, basic blasters, and missiles, to droids, electricity strings, and a weapon that turns enemies into chickens. With all this and more in tow, you are basically a walking one Lombax army. You know, an army that can turn people into chickens. That's normal. After getting all of the game's collectibles, you can also go for slightly upgraded versions of these weapons, though the upgrade is really only there for hardcore players and fans, as there's not that noticeable a difference. The weapons all feel really great to use, and are accompanied by much more situational items called gadgets. While these aren't as exciting, they are certainly useful and mix up the gameplay. Grind boots let you grind rails, the O2 mask lets you breathe underwater and in other harsh environments so you're not gasping for air, the helipack allows you to glide, you get the idea. In addition, there are some quirkier gadgets, such as a PDA that lets you buy ammo and weapons anywhere in a level at an increased cost. Weapons and gadgets go hand in hand in establishing a rewarding sense of progression within the game. You're constantly gaining bolts, the in-game currency, and constantly funneling those into new weapons, ammo for the weapons you have, or for new gadgets. Every world in Ratchet offers up at least one new weapon. In this sense, things just don't really get stale, and by the end, I was crazed with power. 4 words, I love the Rhino. The game doesn't just stop with action platforming though. Like Spyro 2 and 3, there are a variety of gameplay styles. Remember skateboarding from Year of the Dragon? Try hoverboard racing in this game. There's a space battle or two, and some turret sections. Things that feel familiar, but improved from Insomniac's recent work show up here. Clank also gets some solo sections where he commands a small legion of robots Pikmin style. These aren't anything to write home about, but they're entertaining enough and give a nice break from the core gameplay. One final thing is a minigame you play to open certain doors. These are nice little brain teasers, particularly if you're a simpleton like myself. I want to give a thumbs up to the game's presentation value. I seem to be one of the few who digs the game's score. Like, yeah, not every track is incredible, but themes like Novalis and Gaspar are up there for me just for being really cool to play along to. And while I can't say the game has held up particularly well in the graphical department, I do understand that it is a 13-year-old game, and honestly I think it still looks fine enough. A random little touch I liked is that you get cooler and cooler spaceships throughout the game. Really, all in all, there's not many things that this game does poorly. It feels good to play, consistently rewarding, it's charming, and it's paced so that it never feels like it's overstaying its welcome. I did have a few complaints though, which are well known by anyone familiar with this game and the series at large. For one, there's no strafing with weapons. This doesn't make combat awful, but boy would it have been appreciated. I've read that you can do a cheap imitation of strafing with an item, but I had already finished the game without needing that knowledge, so I didn't test it out. A related minor annoyance is Ratchet's wrench throw. Once you throw it, you're stuck in one spot, and enemies like to hurt you. So why am I using the wrench with such a wide variety of weapons at my disposal, you might ask? Well, the Hyper Strike is quick, it's really powerful, and I don't have to spend bolts on ammo for it. The wrench was easily one of my most used weapons up until I got the Rhino. But my biggest complaint, and say it with me Ratchet fans, not enough bolts. It's telling that so many people just rely on a glitch that lets you farm bolts for hours, but it's really the best way to get them. Sure, you could play through the game again, and the New Game Plus even has a feature where your bolt rate increases, but it's still not great. If you're playing on PS3 like me and going for the Million Bolts trophy, have fun setting up that glitch. That said, I know the sequels improve on all of these fronts greatly. As I'm writing this, I'm actually just starting Ratchet 3, so don't worry, I know it gets better. Really, while playing through Ratchet 1, one of the thoughts I had most often was, wow, I can't wait to see how this gets improved in the sequels. I don't want to detract from this game. I really enjoyed it. But I know it only goes up from here. I still highly recommend Ratchet 1 if you haven't played it like me. You're safe to skip it, but it holds up well enough on its own. The highest compliment I can give it is that it feels like something the Spyro creators would have worked on next. And that should be good enough to make anyone want to try it. This has been MykonosFan. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you'll join me next time on Learning to Love PlayStation, where we'll discuss Ratchet & Clank 2 Going Commando. Let me know what you think of Ratchet & Clank 1.